Lock and Key podcast may contain language and themes that are sensitive to some. Listener discretion is advised.
This special episode of Lock and Key podcast features writer, activist, and filmmaker Kevin Powell, alongside co-writer Evangeline Lawson. They join us to discuss their powerful new film, When We Free the World, a documentary that explores the meaning of manhood in America through the voices of Black men across generations. So, Kevin, what was the creative spark that led you to make When We Free the World?
Beyonce's Lemonade. A lot of people are surprised when I say that, but I'm a brother who has always paid attention to what Black women are doing, not just Black males or, women as well, because I think we need to be open always to learning. And I was really struck by the response to the Lemonade visual album and the album itself. I watched it several times and I was like, man, I really would love to do something like this for men, for Black males specifically, where we explore, with the use of great visuals and poetry like she has in there and music, weaving it all together and really kind of look at our stories as males and as men in a deeper way. So that was one of the things. And obviously just being a Black man in America, I mean, listen, I was in Ferguson protesting after Michael Brown got killed. I was in Florida, Trayvon Martin got killed. And obviously I was out there in the streets with a lot of people in 2015 when George Floyd was killed. So just being a Black male in America and all the challenges that we face on a daily basis, having to deal with racism, being looked at as threats and dangerous, as one brother says in the documentary film, and just wanting to create a space where we could talk honestly and openly about a range of things, manhood, fatherhood, mental health. You'll see, people will see what I'm talking about there in New Hampshire, but that was the impetus for it. So it's been 6 years in the making, and I'll let Evangeline jump in because she's definitely an integral part of it. It wouldn't exist without her.
Sure. I think that for me, there's two things that were leading the way. One is I'm a person who really is big on community, and I've always been intrigued and also kind of trying to be driven towards a solution to the dynamics between men and women within the community or people who identify in other groups. And I feel like there are great projects and great work out there, but there wasn't anything that was tapping into hearing directly from men what their struggles were, what their concerns were, what their journey was like. And I think as a woman, there was always a natural curiosity about what men actually were thinking. What do they say? Do they find safe spaces? And when they find them, what do they say? And so I was really driven to work with Kevin and the rest of our team to really uncover that because I knew if I was a woman that was curious about that, there were probably other people in the community that were as well. So I think community and curiosity for me were definitely driving factors in that.
And let me add, Anthony, we know historically the barbershop represents a kind of therapy space for Black males or men, period, and I'm talking about straight brothers for a second. And a lot of us talk in the barbershop very freely, as you know, New York, Brooklyn, be it LA, New Orleans, everywhere I've been to a barbershop, you hear all kinds of things. But what you also, if you start to dig deeper, most of us are socialized to talk about just sports, about money or our jobs or careers, something tied to money, or we talk about sex, we talk about women. It's limited conversations. But in the private conversations that I've had with a lot of men through the years of all different age ranges, not just my generation, but multiple generations, you hear other things. And we're like, cats talking about depression, talking about thoughts of suicide. We have brothers in the film talking about being survivors of sexual assault as children. You rarely hear men talk about that openly, publicly. And what we did, we went all the way back. We looked at as many films as possible because we know the film industry has been around since the late 1800s into the early 1900s. We know that most of the depictions of our people, including Black men in the first at least 50, 60 years was just horrifically racist, not just the face stuff, but that's a part of it. Birth of a Nation, us as coons, buffoons, shuffling, jiving, etc. And even when we get to the blaxploitation era, and I certainly love a lot of those films like The Mac and Superfly, but like Nathan McCall, the writer, said in his autobiography, watching those films made him want to be a criminal, and he ended up in jail as a result of watching those films. Or we see films come in cycles. Like I don't sit here and lie and say I don't love New Jack City and Boys in the Hood and Minister Society and Juice. but then it's like we're so many different things. We're so many, that's what we say in the film. It's like, we're not one-dimensional creatures. Like I'm a hip hop head for life, but I'm also a serious jazz head. I love classical music. I love the opera, but it's like we're not even encouraged to express ourselves in that way because you're considered, all the names that we were called as boys growing up. Like if you expressed yourself, something was wrong with you, would either say something that was some word that would be considered homophobic or sexist now to describe that boy because we were policing each other. And we're like, enough of that, man. Because when you look at all the things that are happening with black males now, as you see it on social media, see one other celebrity after another getting in trouble. And we know that white males do the same things, and we know that they're held to a different standard than us. But one of the things we raise in the film is like, why should their value system be our value system? Just because they're getting in trouble doesn't mean we should also be okay with getting in trouble. And we need to think about how we relate to ourselves, how do we relate to each other, how we relate to brothers who might be different than us, and how we relate to women and girls. So all those things went into our thought process as we are putting this film together.
That is very powerful, Kevin. You touched on a lot, Evangeline. I'm getting my daughter in about an hour. I am glad that she gets to see me in all of my elements when I have her. Kevin, like you said, women play a very large part seeing manhood and being able to speak on it. So I really appreciate the woman's touch that is involved with this film. To the both of you, what creative or emotional challenge surprised you the most? I'm sure you had some very powerful moments.
We both did. I mean,
Yep.
she worked on it 6 years. Evangeline's been on it 4 of the 6 years.
Mm,
And I think before we answer that question, I think what you said is very important. Evangeline has a father in her life. I think that people always think about father and think about fathers and sons, but we made
mm,
sure fathers with daughters like yourself in the film, and you could jump in there.
I think representation across the board is really important. And we wanted to make sure that we didn't fall into typical narratives and stereotypes about Black men where they're just absent or, these shadows of people. We really wanted to try to capture men in their full humanity. And there are definitely fathers that are not present, but there are a lot that are. And then there are a lot of fathers that are fathers of daughters, and those relationships are important too. So we wanted to make sure that we capture that. So I think that does tie into your next question because as the documentary progresses, you ask questions that spark additional thought that then may make your car drive down another road. So initially we were talking to fathers in general, and a lot of them were fathers of sons, and they talked a lot about how their sons helped them further develop as men. But then we realized not only were there people in our lives that had daughters, but if they're making such an impact on their sons, what type of impact does a father make on a daughter's life? So
mm,
then that would mean that we want to then find fathers of daughters and have them talk on camera when they're comfortable talking on camera. I think that this was actually a living, breathing process, that it wasn't fixed. We didn't have a set idea in mind where we were trying to dictate where everybody went based off of the line of questioning. It really was something that was organic in nature in a lot of ways. We knew we wanted to uncover the ideas of manhood and where they came from. That was the overall goal. But a lot of how that story developed was because of what the men shared. Maybe we had an intention of talking about history in a certain way, for example, but based on what people shared, that really shaped the story that we told. Very informative, also very engaging and enlightening in ways that a lot of people might not have thought of when they sit down to watch this film. But also, even for us, as we were interviewing people, we got gems, right? We really got gems
Yeah.
in talking to some of the men on camera that weren't expected. And so that really, when we went through and combed through all of the transcripts, that what they gave us is what helped really shape and form the final product.
I'll give you an example, Anthony. The brother in the film named Dr. Steve Jackson, he's from Left Racks out of Queens. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? He was in Rikers Island about to go upstate. Miraculously turned his life around. What we didn't know is that he had his father in his life. He talks about how his father loved his kids, was always kissing on him and his siblings, but his father was also an alcoholic. His father died at 39.
mm,
This brother got his PhD in spite of that, but his
mm,
son, who went to USC Film School with Ryan Coogler, who you
mm,
know who Ryan
mhm.
Coogler, his son was only 32 when he committed suicide 5 years ago. And so he lost his father at 39 and he lost his son at 32. Can you imagine the pain of that? You know, what I
Mm,
mean, you know from your own journey. And so
mhm,
those kind of things were unexpected. And he said, when you and others see the film, he says, I realized that part of the problem is that we as men don't talk. We have to talk. We have to talk. He says that over and over again. Film. We're not trying to beat people over the heads, you know what I'm saying? Because we know people are coming at you all the time on social media, text messages, emails, etc.
Mhm.
We felt like if we just take the best quotes or sound bites, as we say in film, and tie it together, people can draw their own conclusions. The one thing I'll say that I definitely did at the beginning, I decided to break the film up, and this is even before Evangeline came on, is 9 chapters. It starts with chapter one is history. We have a manhood chapter. We have a chapter called fatherhood. We have a chapter called abandonment. We have a chapter called hurt. We have a chapter called Me Too about how we relate to women and girls. We have a chapter called brothers. We have a chapter called try. And the last chapter is called hope because we also are very conscious that, yo, we're not trying to create a project that's going to re-trigger or traumatize a whole bunch of brothers. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You're
Mhm.
not going to see a whole bunch of brothers getting pulled over by the police, being shot by the police, being shot by some vigilante like George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin. We
Mhm.
were obviously the most famous examples are Emmett Till and George Floyd, so we weren't going to skip over that. But we're very conscious because a lot of times, what you go on social media, you just see these negative images of brothers all over the place. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, nah, we're not going to do that. Back to Beyonce, what I got from Lemonade, she showed the beauty, the range of beauty and power of Black women. We're like, yo, outside of hip hop and sports, where do we ever see images of Black males on a regular basis? All kinds of brothers, just like sisters, every shape and size. We got 5 generations of brothers, 70 different Black male voices are represented in the film. And that
Mhm.
was intense. And they're from all over the country. You could tell from you'll hear cats with New York accents, you'll hear cats with down south accents, you'll have cats with, West Coast accents. You know what I mean? We got brothers who have West Indian roots up in there, you know what I mean? And because we're like, we want to represent for once. We're not saying that this is the perfect film, but when you see it and
Mhm.
others see it, I think you'll say, man, I see myself in this film here, 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 and here, no matter who you are as a man, but definitely as a Black man.
Mhm. That is powerful, brother. I have not looked forward to watching a movie in about 5 to 6 years. I can't remember the last one that I was had this much anticipation to watch. So I look forward to it. And to you both, I say thank you very much. Because again, you guys are filling a void, in my opinion. I like to try to keep it light sometimes. I have to ask you both a question.
Yeah.
Evangeline, I'm sorry, but I have to get you out of this because the Lakers have gone down. But Golden State is still around.
They are.
Kevin, are we pulling this thing off, man?
You
Are
talking
the
about the
Knicks?
Knicks?
Yeah, are the Knicks pulling this thing off, man?
I never said I was a Knicks fan.
Well, okay, they're up 2-0. I'm up here in New England, and I'm getting all types of drama. But I have my fingers crossed. Who do you roll with, if you mind me asking?
Well, I'm always gonna roll with New York teams over anybody else. Yeah,
Okay.
I just
Yeah.
I get it, but they still got to win 2 more games. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes, they do. They
You
do.
know, that's to celebrate like they won their first championship since 1973. Even Spike Lee out there, Mike is losing his mind out there. You know how Spike rolls with the Knicks. I'm just happy. Me and Evangeline were actually at the Liberty game where they won the championship this past WNBA season.
Yes.
Tell you the party outside the Barclays in Brooklyn was incredible. Am I
Mhm.
right?
Oh,
Yeah.
We're both diehard basketball fans. You just want to see good games, man. I'm
man.
praying Curry gets back. He got his little
Yes.
injury, and he's the last of the California teams. We're calling you from California, so we're like,
Right.
wow.
Thank you guys both. Let me let you get back to doing God's work.
Just say one other thing really quickly, if I
Yes,
can.
sir.
It's not just the film, it's a study guide curriculum for ages 10 through adults. That's
Mhm.
two. There's going to be a website full of information and resources for heads that, digest the film. The soundtrack is an all black male soundtrack created by Vidal Davis, who is a multi-Grammy-nominated producer who gave us this incredible soundtrack. This guy has produced everyone from Usher, Mary J. Blige, Alicia Keys, Jill Scott, Justin Bieber, Michael Jackson. He's worked on all kinds of stuff.
Mm,
It's the first all black male soundtrack since 1994 when Jason's Lyric came out. Think about that for a second. You know what I mean? The first one since then. And then
mm,
it's a multi-part podcast series as well,
Mhm.
9 parts, just like 9 chapters in a film. So
mm,
there's a lot of pieces to this that we put into this. It's not just the film. The film is what y'all see up there in
mm,
Manchester,
mm,
but we're coming with a whole set of tools because we're like, yo, let's create this space for the community, not just brothers, sisters, everyone to really dive in it. And I mean, I was raised by a single mom. These are tools for people. These are tools for fathers because there's a lot of answers, a lot of people talking like your father, his
mm,
brother's saying, saying this is how I'm a father. Like back to Steve Jackson, he talks about how one of the things that kept coming up, fathers need to be present in their kids' lives. Even if
mm,
moms don't get along or figure it out. You know what I mean?
mhm.
That leaves a huge hole. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, the goal of the film wasn't just to be a standalone piece. It really was to be a tool to build community and to build people up. So we wanted to make sure that we gave the resources to be able to reinforce that. So this is definitely one of those multimedia projects designed to really truly help.
Yeah. And since you brought up basketball, which is a love of ours, I mean, think about the example that Steph Curry and his wife, as father and mother and parents. Think about LeBron
Mhm.
James was 15 when his mother had him, but he's a father and husband. He figured out a way to be the opposite of what he was brought into. You see what I'm saying? I
Yes.
got sports. Everybody was criticizing going off on Shador Sanders and Deion Sanders. I hear people entitled to their opinions, but I'm like, you know what? At least Shador can say he has a father that's there and that
Hmm.
actually loves him. I mean, what are we critical of? You know what I mean? It's like, is he not supposed to have confidence? Is he not supposed to believe in himself? What are we saying to brothers when they show some sort of swag? You know what I mean? So we think about all of that, and these conversations come up as we travel with this film. But think about ASAP Rocky and the people who
Yeah.
have him. He's soft, he's corny, he's following behind Rihanna. That's not what I see as someone who didn't have a father. I see
Hmm.
a father who's present, who loves his wife and he loves his kids. That's
Yeah.
what me and Evangeline are trying to represent. What's wrong with black love? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
After Thursday, I'm still pushing this movie, man. I want to be involved and continuing to push it. I really want to see it. And I really appreciate you guys bringing it to the forefront.
No, we want people in the communities like yours around the country. We want people to talk it up and let folks know when it gets to Amazon, when it gets to YouTube. We will announce that. We will definitely let people know. We're just going to ask people to spread the word. We have a When We Free the World is on all social media platforms. Just follow us on social media platforms. You'll get updates about when it's streaming, when the first music video is going to drop, and you would really appreciate the first single is called "I'm a Man," like the old movie. Remember the famous posters from back in the civil rights era, the brothers carrying a sign saying "I am a man."
I'm a man. Yes, I remember that. Yes,
Made a
sir.
video, we made a song called "I'm a Man," and we're really proud of it. You'll see what it is, man. So we're coming with all of those tools.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
believe it.
think social media is probably the best place. And we keep we'll make sure all the notifications and everything are there.
Great.
Yeah. Social media, I think.
Yeah, when
Mhm.
we free the world, just follow us all over there, and the website will be up. By the time we get to Father's Day weekend, Juneteenth, all that, whenwefreetheworld.com will be up and live as well, so people can check out everything there too.
Evan, Evangeline, thank you guys for being on Lock and Key Podcast.
You.
Thank you so much. Peace to you.